All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be looking at very important aspect of IT, something that everyone should have an idea, but of course, if you're into networking and system administration, you must go deeper into this aspect. But because this is DAIPODS, I want everybody to just understand what it's all about. So, first of all, confirm you can hear me. I want to make sure and confirm that the screen that I'm sharing is available. And can somebody type in what is on the screen at the chat session? Um, what are you seeing? Servers. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to be talking about servers are equally computers because you have defined what we have defined is a computer is an electronic device, how we move from generation one to two and all that. Server is one important aspect. Anybody that's going to IT space might, be doing himself harm if you don't really understand what this is all about. Like I said, that point is one in a lifetime opportunity because at some point, people are going to be wishing that they did this, but you're going to be getting this on a platter of gold, and then it's going to be simpler for you to just navigate this whole IT space, understanding what this is all about. I'm going to break it down in a way, just in the manner we've been doing from the beginning of this class, less complicated and understand them. So we're going to be talking about server today. So let's get right straight to it. Like I said, today is going to be very short because I'm going to show you something that I need everybody to do and practicalize, right? So it's not about talking and teaching. So I'm going to, really share a lot of, practical sessions today. So let us go into the, theoretical one. If you recall, when I was talking about the clouds, this is recall. If you were in attendance in the first module of this dipole, remember I was talking about cloud. I want to, like, these things are not disjointed because when we try to define these things, sometimes someone will come and define server and talk about it as if it's different from what you already know. No. Okay. So let me just kind of recall what we have talked about before. You see this diagram, when you hear about cloud computing, this is what the diagram is all about. Remember, I told you sometimes your laptop you bought that you are using can be categorized under the first layer because that laptop has the network, card, it has the storage, okay, it has the server because the information you are looking for, can be stored in a particular file. So those files and folders, okay, for those that might not really understand what it's all about, can be accessed through the means of something that helps you to get them. So there is storage on one part, and then there is what? Accessing those information at one part. What helps you to do this? Remember, we mentioned something like a file system. So I want you to understand that. Then there's what they call virtualization that helps you to, kind of virtualization is something that mimics a physical system. Then you have your what? OS. Sometimes you don't really need virtualization. You have your OS, you have your middleware. All of you, I'm sure that you can, the middleware, when we're talking about things like, you know, um, uh, things that will interpreters, compilers, that will help you, shells, that will help you get information and be able to translate it down to what the OS will understand. Of course, in the OS, you have the kernel that finally transfers everything into ones and zeros and stuff like that. Then whenever you hear runtime, this is something that, like I said, is once in a lifetime opportunity. You know the terms and know it once and for all. Runtime is talking about development environment. There's nothing else they're talking about because development environment for a particular language is different from the development environment for another language. So runtime, you understand, is actually the word that is used, to kind of define the development environment. So when you hear runtime, you can have runtime for Java, you can have runtime for Python, you can have runtime for JavaScript. So these are programming languages, they have runtime. Of course, you have your data layer and then you have your application layer. So when you buy your system, right, everything in the other orange color, you manage it because everything it comes with your system, right? You're not going to be using something else to manage some of these things. Now, on premise, that thing you see on premise is in my compound, okay? So in your company, you have your server. It could be in your room. So I want you to not disabuse your mind from the bogus jargon people use. But when you are talking about a company now, remember you're no longer talking about your laptop. So the company will have different people. Take a particular bank as an example. When you go to the bank, you see the monitor, or they ask you questions, what is your BVN and everything. So they are checking on their system, they are typing in something. In that particular premise, that's why you say on premise, in that particular bank, they will have their server installed there. And every one of them that are the cashier, the customer service, everybody is accessing that server. So everything is on premise. So they don't have to, connect to any other place. So all the system in that particular banking premise is connected via what we call network. Okay, the correct word for it is network. Okay, internet is equally network. That's why they call it network. Internet, right? In this network now, computers that are separated by long distance is still connected to each other. So I want you to understand this thing. You can do what we call local area network. They call it LAN. So this bank example I'm giving to you, typically demonstrates local area network. Local is within the premise. So everybody is connected locally. There could be a wide area network. It is not necessarily internet though. Okay. Wide area network is, imagine a big company like Shell, for instance, where the premise is so large. Okay, the premise is so large, a building can be like 100 meters apart. You can have another building that is 400 meters apart, 600, but they are still within, the company location. So you cannot use area because they're already in different buildings. Okay, because they're already in different buildings, you cannot use local area network. You have to use what we call wide area network. So you can have local area network in each building. Then if there is any necessity for different people in different buildings to communicate as well, the company can set up like a server building that will connect. If they can dig foundation, sorry, they can dig like something like a pipe, like call it a pipe, a trunk line. They will now connect all the distance to that server. So, but if the different buildings do not need to communicate with each other, they can manage with their local area network within the same building. But if they need to communicate across, you need to use what we call wide area network. So I'm not here to teach networking, but just for you to get like a feel and an understanding what this was all about. So they have to be connected, right? So when they are connected, that one is related to wide area network, not necessarily internet. When you now go into internet, you're talking about somebody in Lagos connecting with somebody in Port Harcourt. You cannot say it's wide area network now. At this place, we are talking about internet. You can see. So if there is any means that someone can connect over a long distance, you understand, it is still called network. So sometimes these things can be used, you begin to get confused. It is still network. Network is simply a computer that is connected to another computer. That's network. Even if you have two computers connected to each other, is a network. Whether it's local area, whether it is wide area, or whether it's internet work, right? So it is connecting different, networks. So that's, I want us to first of all understand what that means. Okay, back to on, because see, if I define network now and I don't connect it to on premises, IaaS, everybody just people will just cram what IaaS is, PaaS is, IaaS. You can't connect everything. And that's why we actually kind of brought in this DAIPOD so that we can kind of tear these things down. Okay, they are all related. Now, if by any means, right, you have to control certain things and allow another person to control certain things, you can see the green comes in the second one, meaning that things like virtualization, storage, and network can be controlled by another person. Let me not use cloud now. Okay, then let's just understand it. Okay, it means that those things in green will be run maybe not in your system, but in another system. I want to use this concept to explain what a server is. Okay, so those things in green, since you are not the one managing it, it will not be in this. That's why I don't want to use cloud now, because it is going to be easier for you to understand. Meaning that when they give you a system in the bank, for instance, the bank will give you a system that has something like OS. I'm just giving hypothetically, I don't mean it in principle. But you don't have access to visualization, server, storage, and networking. This thing will be running in another place. And once this happens, you that is managing the one in green, you become the client. And wherever those things in green are managed is referred to as the server. So the server will serve you these things. Again, let us look at the other one. Please don't look at IaaS, PaaS, because we are not here to talk about cloud yet. Okay. Now, we can equally have another. So in this, sorry, before we go to the third one, look at the second one. That second one means that you can write a program. That is developers now. What is special about the second one? Something special about the second one is that there is runtime there. Runtime is not in green, meaning that you, that is a Python developer, can decide to install your own runtime so that you'll be able to run type, like you to code. You'll be able to code in Python language. That is what it means. So that is among the things that you can manage. So you can decide to uninstall Python, install JavaScript. Some of you know what IDE is. Visual Studio, is an example of it. Okay. There's another one that VS Code. Yeah, VS Code is what I was thinking about. VS Code is now the popular one. So VS Code is more like, okay, it's more like a runtime for you. So with VS Code, you can write your code and everything. So you could see this second one gives you that opportunity for you to do all these things. Then let us go forward. There is one that you don't have any opportunity. You can see it's already in green. So when they give you that system, you can only manage two things: the data and the application, right? You cannot write code. Or even if you are going to write code, it means that they have provided the runtime for you to write the code. You understand? So you don't have authority, you don't have the ability, okay? You don't have what it takes to manage runtime. The runtime comes with the system, okay? So at this point, I have to go to the other side. In this other side, it means that none of these things, you get a system and then you have to connect to that system using a network. The system will not give you any of these things. So, having gotten this concept, please, today we're not talking about cloud. I just want to use this to explain something. Let us talk about what a server is. Okay? A server is a computer or a system that provides resources, is in green there. So you get it today once and for all. Nobody should confuse you. A server is a computer or a system that provides resources. Other things like data, services, or even programs, okay, to other what computers. Now, is a computer on its own, but it is providing these resources to other computers, right? Now, essentially, it is the backbone, right? This allows multiple users to access the same information and resources. Okay. Now, this second paragraph is very, very, very important. Okay. Because server, the term server can be used for different things. You can see servers can be used for physical machine. That's the one I just explained to you. But also, servers can be a virtual machine. We're going to talk about virtual machine, and that's why we are here today. Because I need to break it down before we go to virtual machine. Servers are also softwares. Okay, please. So server can be a hardware. A lot of people don't know this. Say, I have Windows Server. Windows Server is not a hardware. Okay, so sometimes you can have a server as a software, and I'm going to explain why we refer to servers as software. Okay, and they can have do various tasks like web hosting, file storage, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now remember we said something, client server model. There is no server without a client. Okay, if you are both the server and the client, then it is on premise because you are not, you are the one managing everything. But in this case, you can see a PC, a smartphone, and a laptop can be connected to a server directly. Okay, now look at another type of configuration. I have to cover everything, meaning that we can equally connect to a server somewhere in the world that is not within our premises. Okay, so you can see that server can come in different form. Oh, go to the server room, it means that that server room is within. But if you are saying www.google.com, you want to watch a Netflix movie, right? That movie is in a server somewhere. So what you need is to connect to the internet, so that the internet with the IP, and I've talked about the whole IP. Okay, no. When we get to online, I will break down communication protocols. You understand? So don't worry about it yet. So the internet will be able to help you to access. So you can see, in a way, these are equally clients as well, but they don't use the word client. But I want you to really understand it. Even if they don't use the term client, you really understand what this thing is. So this is an example, for instance. Okay. Now we have this company. They have like 30 systems, and those 30 systems will be connected to servers. Okay, example, they can have an email server, they can have a web server, and they can have a database server. So intentionally, I've decided to add that each of these servers are running different operating systems. Okay, I did it intentionally. So imagine if I have other, because these things are using different communication protocols, right? This is just like, maybe it can represent a local area network. So imagine if I have to, okay, um keep putting up server, then it means that I am underutilizing this thing, right? So this is going to lead us to what we want to discuss today. Now, virtualization. So you could see, let me go back. Each of these servers will have all the functionalities. The bare metal is the hardware, okay? And then you have your, server, sorry, storage is there now. You have your networking. It's because of networking that you can connect to all the systems and everything. You have your this thing. So, but what if we decide not to do this? The question I want to ask in this class, is it possible to use just one server to do emailing, web server, and database? The answer is yes. Okay, why? Look at this. Each of these servers, they are running different OSs. And that is why you might be tempted to install each OS in each server and run it differently. Okay, so this was how servers were built before now. Because of improvements of technology and everything, say, why can't we even run all this operating? You can see we have 3 operating systems in just one server, and then use the server and do everything, which is typically what you are going to get today. So the answer to the question is that, how can we do that? The answer to that question is what? Virtual machine. Okay, so there's what they call virtualization. See the diagram on the left hand side. You can see you have your bare metal, you now have your operating system, and then you have your applications, right? But you could see the second one, we now have a bare metal. Instead of operating system, we have what we call VMware. Okay, VM means virtual machine, just like you have software, hardware, virtual machineware. So it is a virtual machine. And what you will notice conspicuously between the first one and the second one now, because of the VMware, you are able to install 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different operating systems as against what you have here. So that means that if I have a VMware, I can install Windows, I can install Linux, and I can install Unix to run my mails, to run my web, and to run my database. So that's the idea. So let us define a virtual machine. What is a virtual machine? Is a software, is usually a software, right? because it tries to mimic. Okay, let me just define it. It's a software emulating a physical computer. So it's a software that emulates a physical computer. So it runs an operating system, OS, inside another operating system, allows multiple operating system environments to coexist in a single physical machine called the host system. So there is a host, okay, and then there is what we call guests. So I'm going to put in some terms now, right? A VM behaves like an independent computer with its own. It can give you CPU, it can give you RAM, it can give you storage and network. All these things are called resources. So it can give you different resources like, processing, the random access memory, the storage, and all that. Okay. Now, but these are virtualized using a software. So what it means is that using that diagram, I don't want to go into this. Okay, the diagram shows you that you can use a system and replicate different operating system. You can run different run times and everything. So how does this work? Please note this word called hypervisor. Okay, it's also called what? Virtual Machine Monitor, VMM. Okay, it creates and manages virtual machines. Okay, let's continue. Can you hear me now? All right. Please, someone should confirm. All right. So thank you, Rose. Okay. Network kind of fluctuated. Did you hear the last thing? I just want to know where I stopped so I might not, so I don't confuse you guys. You can type it if you cannot talk. Did you get the last thing I was saying? I need an answer. I need to make sure that people are listening. Okay, thank you. So let me continue from here. Hypervisor definition. So the hypervisor is a software, okay, sometimes referred to as virtual machine monitor, okay, VMM, that allows multiple operating systems to run on a single physical computer, sharing its resources. This term, resources, I want you to take note of it. It acts as a middleman, abstracting the physical hardware and enabling the creation and management of virtual machines. These VMs can each run their own operating systems and application, isolated from each other. So this is traditional where you have everything, okay? But you can see now you have one, look at the second picture, that's where I want you to focus on. You have one physical machine, right? Then you now have a hypervisor that will be able to what? Install host operating systems so that it will have the capability of doing three things at the same time. So traditionally, I would have bought servers for 1, 2, 3. I would have bought 3 servers, but now with the help of hypervisor, I'm able to do that. So types of VMware. So you have types. You have system. There's one for the system, and there's one for process, right? So system is the one I've actually kind of explained to you. Okay, but there's equally something for process. Look at it now. It runs a single application inside the virtualized environment. So that one is that if you have an OS, for instance, let me show you this picture now. One of those buckets on top of the second one will just be running one single application. It will not accommodate two. That is simply process-based virtualization. But another of these six OSs can equally install different things. You can use it to watch movie, you can use it to watch do graphics, you can use it to uh carry out database and everything. So it has the capacity. So in that case, back to this, you can refer it to a system virtual machine. So you can run different things. But when it is process virtual machine, that's the second one, is on application level. So you are virtualizing on application level. So that's what you do. So there are examples that have been given here, right? You have VirtualBox. We are going to do these things practice. That's why I said today's class is going to be short, because all we are going to do is to demo and then you take it from there. Yeah, these are some examples. Okay. You have VirtualBox, you have VMware, you have Microsoft Hyper-V, you have KVM, you have Zen, you have VMware ESXi, you have Java Virtual Machine. So example of this second one I'm talking about now, you can see when you install Java Virtual Machine, you're not trying to, it's an OS, okay, that has its own runtime, and then you can just decide to like run everything Java on it. You don't want any other. That equally installs things like Microsoft.NET. So .NET based runtime actually works on this one. So that's an example. So this one on top, of course, you have Windows. Windows, you can install everything like VLC and all that. Okay. Popular virtualization software, right, is written below. So don't cram them. You understand? Until you start using them, you get familiar with them. Type 1 is what? Bare metal. Bare metal is simple. Whenever you hear bare metal, that's another term you need to. Bare metal means a new system without any installation. When you buy a system, there's no Windows, nothing in it. Okay, you begin to run everything, you begin to install your operating system, you begin to install your drivers, you begin to configure some of your settings and everything. The bare metal, when you buy a system now, when you press it, sometimes Windows will come. That is not a bare metal. So bare metal is not only in your personal system. When you are bringing in a server, okay, that server can come empty. So there are some companies that say, don't put anything, just get me the server, we'll be able to run everything. Some companies say, please give me a Windows server, meaning that that server will come with Windows. This is not the personal Windows. So there's a window, there's an OS called Windows Server. I want you people to begin to understand some of these things. Okay, installing a VMware. This is exactly demonstration of what we have talked about before. I have less than 5 minutes to go. So you have the computer hardware. Okay, the hardware will come with 3 resources basically. Okay, you can cram you with CNS like an acronym. This is whenever they ask you what basic compute resources is. CNS like storage, network, and compute. So every basic computer that is even a bare metal will have this what we call capability, even though it has not been configured or configured. But it comes with it. So it is a capability that can be activated. So when you have this, right, you can now install what we call your host operating system, example Windows. And now this thing I'm doing now is what you guys will do. Okay, when you install your Windows, right, you now install a virtual machine. This virtual machine will come with the whole hypervisor capabilities and all that. In this case, now I want you to now install another operating system. Now, this is a guest operating system. Why do you need to do this? Because in the next class, remember we have done prompts, command prompts, and because that is Windows based, we are going to do Linux. Okay. In the next, if you have done this before, don't worry. Okay. Because in the next class, I'm going to do some like Linux based, just like we've done with command prompts. We're going to do Linux basic this thing. Remember, this class is not, I did not go deeper into the command prompt because it's just for you to understand what happens. So at the end of the day, you now what? Install your CLI or GUI. Your CLI is command line interface. In this case, you're going to use Linux because you have done Windows or GUI. So how do we start? I am going to drop this link. Okay, I'm just going to rush through this thing. I'm going to drop this link on the chat. This is where you start from. If you, I'm assuming, sorry, remember I said at the beginning, so we don't get it confused. I'm assuming that you are running Windows, and in this your Windows, you want to install another guest operating system, Linux based, so that and the one we are going to use is Ubuntu. So if you check the chat now, I'm going to drop this link. So when you go to this link, I've dropped it already. When you go to this link, you are going to see download Ubuntu desktop. Okay, download Ubuntu. This is the guest OS. Ubuntu, remember I talked about distros. Ubuntu is one of the distros for what? For Linux, because Linux is an open source operating system. So when you click on this download, can I do annotation here? Let me see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so when you click on this, right, this one I'm annotating now, it's going to bring out another window. You are going to see download. So you see the latest version here, the one I'm circling right now. You click on it. I've dropped the link already. Okay, don't do it yet. When I leave the call, you can practicalize this yourself. So when you click on this link, it takes you to, click here and then click, okay, I even did this thing. That's the first one. Then go to another website. This is the virtual machine, right? I'm going to drop this also. Please make sure you have internet. I think one of these files is like 4 gig or something. Remember, or you can download some the earlier versions just to test what you're doing, so that it wouldn't kill your this thing. Okay. So we have the virtual box. Okay. So with the virtual box, you now have let me go. So you click on, what do you do? I've dropped the link also. You click on the download button. When you click on the download button, you are going to see, this particular window, right? I've dropped the link. If you check the chat, copy the link. So you drop on this window, and then you're going to have some terms and conditions. Now you could see the virtual box you want to download, right? So you choose the virtual box for Windows. This is this one now. You can see it here. So you are going to go to this website. That's because I'm assuming you are using Windows. So please, if you are using Mac, you might have to, check another one, right? Then when you finish this one, the next thing you are going to do is to click on accept and download, right? So this is the process. You click accept and download. The next thing you are going to do, you are going to see the process. So after downloading, this is the two icons you are going to see. The two things you downloaded, this is one and this is two. Okay. Then the first thing you install is the virtual box. Let me go back. Okay. This is the reason. This is the first thing you install, right? This is why I am, because you need to um do all this. Somebody said, I think on Mac you can use parallel. I think I've seen that advert. I don't use Mac. Sorry. We can kind of come back to it later and clarify, right? So let me, because I said if I'm using both on the same class, it's going to, if there's a need for, maybe I can do a recording for Mac and then share with everyone. It's not going to be optimal if you are trying to do the same thing. So for we need to install the verse. You click on it, you say yes, you run it, yes, 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 of course, until what it finishes. So you go click on this, then you click yes, you keep on click on next, 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 next. Of course, you guys know this one. Then you click on finish. When you click on finish, this is the virtual box machine, right? This is how so it comes out like a software. So what you need to do now is start adding your operating system. So what you do is you click on this part, okay? Then you click on extension. Look at it here. When you click on extension, you install. Okay, when you click on install, You now go to, remember you downloaded two things, VirtualBox and then this thing. So you need to click on the VirtualBox, right, extension. Okay, click on the VirtualBox extension. When you click on the VirtualBox extension, then you install it. Okay, so after installing it, this is what you are going to see. Just agree to this thing. You now see Oracle VirtualBox extension pack. Okay, it appears here. So once it appears here, it means you can click on it. Okay, you are now good to go. But remember, your guest OS is yet to be installed. That's the Ubuntu. Just note that. What you have done is to create an environment. This is like what will give you that hypervisor. Okay, to create that hypervisor capabilities. Okay. Now, what you are going to do now you have your this thing. Let us now add Ubuntu. So the first thing you do is you go to this place, you say, click on machine, right? You are installing a machine, you click on new. I want to add here, I can add as many OS as possible, okay, but just for once, this one, you click on this, then you go to that file where you have your Ubuntu and choose it. This is the folder, okay. You go to this folder, go and search for it. You can see, of course, all of you know how to search. You search for it. Then type of the machine you are installing is a Linux machine. Okay, choose Linux here, and then you name it whatever you would want to call it. You name it Ubuntu. Then you locate the folder where you installed it. Look at example like that. You see that thing you downloaded. That's what is showing up there. When you select it, you now go to the next level. So you can see next level, it will expand. You need to create a password so that when you come to this guest OS, you'll be able to log in with your own particular password. Okay, you create the password and repeat the password. When you are done with this, you now give it a username. So this guest OS will have a username. Now you create the password, and then what you do, the next one. So we have the third step. The third step is the hardware. Now, this is very important. I want you to note, if you are using 4 gig RAM, it might be difficult for you to do this thing. You understand? Because you need to allocate, again, I'll use that same word, resources. You need to allocate resources to it. So when you allocate resources to it, for instance, the base memory, that's gig. This my computer is 16 gig. So I just allocated um 4 gig to it. Look at it here. I allocated 4 gig. So you can see the 4 gig. Then the processor, it is 8 CPU. Okay, I allocated 3 out of the 8. Look at it here. Okay, that's sharing of resources. Now you understand what this hypervisor, this is actually the thing that the hypervisor helps you to do, to allocate resources. You understand? Please don't overload your system. What you are going to notice is that your system will start slowing down. Okay, but after doing this, you can uninstall it. This is for preference sake. Okay, then you allocate these 3 cores and everything. Then the last step is the hardware. This hardware is where you now choose the secondary memory, that's the storage. Okay, I have 2 TB here. I can just give you 25 gig. Look at it here. I say out of this, I just give you 25. I don't want you to take so much of this thing. You can see 25 gig. Once you are done, click on finish, and soon will install. Look at now, that your virtual machine now has Ubuntu here added. Before now, it was not there. Meaning you can install another one, number 2, you can install number 3, you can install number 4. That is what we visualized in the virtual machine. So you can install different OSs here. Okay. So all you need to do is click on new machine, follow this thing and all that. So having said that, you are now going to run your Ubuntu. You can see Ubuntu is now running on Windows. This is how your Windows load. But what is loading now is Ubuntu. There are different processes, private security, power settings, like all the things you can do in Windows, you can do it here as well. So when you come in, you can see the name I gave my own is the law. That name you gave it when you're installing it, look at it here. You now put your what? The password. And when you put the password, your Ubuntu will launch. And this is exactly how it looks. So this is like your Windows, okay, but this is another OS running on your Windows. So at this point, I will stop the class. You have the two links, right? If you are not clear, you watch this video again, okay? Follow, because it's not about talking. I just want you people to go back, follow this step. I don't want to teach further than this. The next time will come. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to run this, okay? I'm going to run it and open a terminal, and then we'll start typing commands just like we did um in command prompt. So thank you very much. Somebody asked, Emmanuel asked, I didn't hear what you said about RAM. You said if you have 4 gig RAM. What I'm saying is that if you have 4 gig RAM, just allocate one gig or even less than 1 gig, maybe 500 megabytes for the virtual machine, because you might not know if you allocate 2 gig RAM, what you are doing now, you are sharing your primary memory into two equal parts, and your system is going to slow down. Okay, that's the answer to your question. My own is 16 gig. What did I do? I allocated just 3 gig to it. And please, when you finish, if you don't need the excess this thing, uninstall it. You'll go back to your Windows and enjoy yourself. But what I have taught in this class is everything about server. You need to understand virtualization, virtual machine, because some people don't really know how these things work. So, ladies and gentlemen, I look at the chat again. I think I might share it in the group. So try it yourself. When you finish, you can uninstall it and continue with your life. But probably you might have to wait till the next, like when I finish the Linux command, just introduction to, because you're not going to join us in the next class. You won't understand it if you don't have that environment. You understand? You don't have the OS to run Linux. Thank you very much. Yeah, somebody has made that comment before, Adam. So you can use parallel is very good. It's equally virtualization, right? They have been able to for a Mac, you can now run Windows and everything. So I've seen the advert on YouTube, on Facebook, but it is good that I'm even making this point, meaning that that advert, that parallel, you now know what that parallel does. That's part of enlightenment, because you can just install parallel and be doing so. I have used this class to break down everything, starting from servers, you know how it was, Ghost OS, bare metal and everything. Thank you very much. Any other question? I think I need to take my leave now so that you guys can go and try it out. It's not about talking and talking. I've given you the listing. I think probably I will talk with, I can see if we can share the slides for you to get it done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this today's zone is going to, I promise you, is going to be short. So next time we're going to continue with Linux, and then we're going to go to Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, just these three. You can equally try the Google counterpart of it, which is Google Slides, Google Doc, and Google Sheets, just for you to have a feel. I'm not teaching this thing in depth, but for you to understand. Then with that, we'll end which is application and operations. What we are trying to do now is mostly like operations kind of thing, not deep, but just give you intro. Thank you very much.